And welcome to the Last Minute Fantasy Scramble. I'm Kevin McCartney. Alongside me today, we have Bobby Digital Janis and Bud Stanio. And we are in the playoffs for most weeks. So this is a big week ahead of us. Got some huge games, and it's do or die now. So let's start by taking a look at the one game we already played this week. So we had the Patriots, we had the Rams. Bobby, why don't you tell us what you thought from how the Rams played on Thursday Night Football?
Yeah, I mean, I was really impressed with them. I think Sean McVay had a little extra motivation for this one because all you were hearing about pregame and all this was the Super Bowl, the Super Bowl, the Super Bowl, from 2 years ago. So I was pretty impressed with the Rams. We'll start with Cam Akers. I mentioned as my breakout player, I mentioned that I was cautiously optimistic because the Rams have seemed to go with a committee all year, and McVay said that in the very beginning. But not this time. Akers played 50 snaps, and then Henderson and Brown only played 7 and 6 each, finishing with a total of 21.4 fantasy points. First carry of the game, he ripped off like a 34-yard run. But was impressive for me was seeing how McVay kind of schemed up these running plays. I mean, he went a lot of 12 personnel, which they haven't been doing much of that all year. Tyler Higbee and Gerald Everett both played higher percentage of the snaps than Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, which that's the first time that's happened this season. And then I love how the Rams receivers are so unselfish too when it comes to blocking. I mean, they're all excellent blockers, and they were Buck and Aikman were constantly pointing that out in those replays. They were those schemes and that blocking by the receivers especially too was a big reason why they were able to run the ball so successfully. I mean, they even had an 8-minute drive in the third quarter and ended it with a touchdown to Cooper Kupp. So Cam Akers, looks like this might be his backfield now, and that's going to be really valuable down the stretch. Jared Goff had an okay game. He did have the rushing score to kind of save his day. I think he's a streaming option next week against the Jets. Well, and I think you can start all your Rams against the Jets. Robert Woods, 5 for 32. Again, it was a very run-heavy game plan, so I think they're going to kind of get back to passing the ball like they were a little bit more in next week and the following week after that. So Woods, but you still start Woods. Cooper Kupp saved his day with a touchdown, almost 15 fantasy points. Again, you still start Cooper Kupp as well. So overall, and obviously the Rams defense has a nice matchup upcoming next week against the Jets for the playoffs too. So definitely you got to be excited about the Rams. And if you have anybody in the Rams offense, those two receivers, Cam Akers, Jared Goff, the defense, I think you have to be excited moving forward. Bud?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. The Rams looked really awesome. It was cool to see them go back to the rushing game. So that's one. I'll start off on that front for the Patriots. They were completely exploited by the run. I kind of really hope that when teams face them going forward, they use their running backs a little bit more. I'm looking at the Bills. I want to see Singletary carve this offense up because I know he can, and he hasn't really done it this year. But their defense looked really shoddy, and Cam Newton. I called it 2 weeks ago. I said that he wouldn't be like a startable, viable fantasy quarterback going forward. I was kind of exposed about that against the Chargers. Yeah, it's a bad team, but I mean, this game proved it. His quarterback rating was almost 3. And I mean, he's thrown really bad passes. Couldn't get the passing attack going for the Patriots. He was sacked 4 times. He did throw 1 interception also, and then eventually they brought in Stidham. So if you started, some people did start Cam Newton. So if you started him, you're not in good shape right now. Even on the other side of the ball, running wise, they try to get the ball to everybody. Is kind of split up. Damian Harris did have the majority with 11 carries for 50 yards. I still think he's going to be the starting running back depending on his injury. I know he got a little shaken up there towards the end. So on that front, that's something to keep an eye on. Sony Michel had 7 for 22. So, I mean, he was getting involved a little bit. James White, they were trying to involve. He didn't really get going on any front. Cam Newton did have 7 rushes for 16 yards. But, beyond that, their offense really didn't do much. The receivers that did get the ball, it was no more than 5, and that was by Bird. So Jacoby Myers, I mean, I would maybe hold on to these guys if you got them, but I mean, just as your bench players, I wouldn't be starting anybody there. And also, special teams, Folk didn't get anything just because the offense couldn't move. Um, there are certain people that are going to be struggling for this fact. This all guy in one of my leagues, he's the third seed. He started Nick Folk and New England's defense, and he paid the price for it. He's only got 6 or 7 combined points going into today, and that's something you don't want to follow right now. I don't know if their offense can't get going, then there's no point in really using any of these guys. Maybe Harris if he stays healthy as a flex running back, but beyond that, I'm staying away from the rest of it.
Yeah, and it's scary to start players on Thursday night, especially this year, despite the matchups looking good sometimes, just because they're on a short rest. This season is just crazy, just worse than usual when starting people who are playing on Thursday night. Of course, you need to start your studs and play your best players, but you always have to look out. People who will be usually surefire hits may not be so well on Thursday night, and you have to grow to expect that. So when you're seeing some of your top players playing that Thursday night slot, it's not usually a good sign. But yeah. I did want to move on, start to give some of the injury news that is rolling in, some of the bigger things. DeAndre Hopkins is officially active for today's game. Another interesting one, Leonard Fournette is a healthy scratch. He's not going to be playing. He is inactive. But Bobby, why don't you let us know what else is going on as far as injuries are concerned?
Yeah, Brandon Cooks was very questionable, and he's going to be out. When he was out a lot of that game last week, Kiki Kuti really produced and saw 9 targets and over 100 yards. So, and David Johnson being out and the Bears, tough against the run. I think that, and Deshaun Watson's been throwing the ball and playing so well like crazy anyway. The ball's got to go somewhere. And, I like Kiki QT a lot actually now because of this Cooks injury. I mean, he's going to be the number 1 guy there in Houston. So I would definitely fire him up. Frank Gore, not that you might not be starting him anyway. He's going to play. So for those who were excited or picked up Ty Johnson, that's not going to work out for you. Josh Jacobs is expected to play as well. I mean, I haven't read anything about him being limited, but look, the Raiders need him. They know that. They're not going to put him out there if they need. That's a huge game against the Colts. He's the big part of their offense, so you can't get cute start Jacobs. Zeke Elliott is also expected to play. I know he was dealing with a little bit of a calf, but it was never really in doubt that he was going to miss in a great matchup against the Bengals. Like you said, K-Mac, DeAndre Hopkins, Kenyon Drake will play as well. He was questionable coming in with a hip, but he's going to play. McCaffrey's out. And the last thing is there was a report that came out on Drew Brees that they're not going to rush him back, and he is uncertain for Week 15 against Kansas City. So that may be relevant to those of you who have Brees, who have Hill, and also who have Kamara as well. So that's pretty much what I'm having right now. I'll keep you guys updated as more roll in. I'm sorry, one more thing too. DeAndre Swift is expected to play as well.
All right. Speaking about DeAndre Swift, we got some questions rolling in already, but I'm going to pose this one to you. Max asks Swift or Drake this week, knowing that Swift is going to be playing.
Drake's also hobbled. I do think that Swift being back signals a stronger start for him. I know a lot of people are really banking on him being back, especially for Week 14. I'm gonna go Swift in this case. I generally don't like Drake too much, so it might be a little bias on my side, but
yeah, Drake has been getting consistent volume, but just in his offense, it's hard to tell who's going to be relied upon. It's a similar kind of situation with Detroit, but having that mobile quarterback in Kyler Murray just makes things even more questionable, especially with the play calling. I do agree. I like Swift in this situation. That being said, we have a full slate of NFL games going on this week. And Bobby, if you know what that means, it means we are going to break them down rapid fire style, starting with the Texans and the Bears.
Yeah, I just mentioned it. Deshaun Watson, I'm not scared off by the matchup. He still put up over 20 fantasy points last week against the tough Colts defense, so you have to roll with Watson the rest of the way. Again, I like Kiki Kuti as an upside wide receiver too. Chad Hansen as a risky wide receiver 3 that you could get away with. I don't like Duke at all. It might just a low end flex play for me. As for the Bears, love David Montgomery in a smash spot. Love Allen Robinson. I like Mitch Trubisky as well as a streamer. And Darnell Mooney has some nice upside this week. Keep Cole Kmet stashed.
All right, Bud, we have the Cowboys at the Bengals.
Oh, man. So these teams are, well, I mean, not really fighting for anything except just to finish out the season at this point. On Cowboy side, I think the receivers are pretty much safer starts today. Cooper and Lamb for sure. Gallup maybe with the potential for a touchdown. Bengals, you're starting Gio today. That's a surefire there. Otherwise, I'd say
all right, Bobby, we have the Chiefs at the Dolphins.
Yeah, we got the A crew coming in. Tony Romo and Jim Nance. It's going to be I think it might be a good football game. Obviously, you don't have to. If I have to tell you to start Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, and Travis Kelce, like Bud says sometimes, I don't know what you're doing. I think Sammy Watkins is an okay play, but the Dolphins have a good secondary. As for Miami, DeAndre Washington is going to be the starter. I like him as a running back too this week. I think he's going to get a nice workload. As for Parker, you could roll him out as well. And Gesicki,
all right, Bud, we have the
Tua.
Cardinals at the Giants.
This could be like one of those sneaky good games, right? I really like this. Hopkins is playing, so you have that. And Drake is also playing, so if you do need to start him, you can. Kyler Murray is startable, I'd say, in this case for sure. On the Giants side of things, Wayne Gallman's going to get some carries. Daniel Jones is back, so that means a lot for the receivers, and mainly Evan Ingram. Looking for a big day for him
Bobby,
today.
we have the Vikings at the Buccaneers.
Looking for a big day for Ronald Jones. Fournette, like we said, is a healthy scratch, and Arians came out and said, we need to get this guy 20 touches a game. Bruce Arians, you can't trust him, but I think this is a nice Ronald Jones game. I think the Bucs offense in general love Tom Brady in a smash spot this week. I like all three receivers. Godwin will play, and Gronk, you roll out there. As for the Vikings, man, you cannot sit Justin Jefferson. The guy is a stud. He's going to continue to be a stud. Both guys, him and Thielen, are top 10
options. All right, Bud, we have the Broncos
matchup.
at the Panthers.
So, I don't know how I really feel about this game receiver-wise for the Broncos specifically. Drew Lock is there, but he's guaranteed to throw an interception. I don't know if you're really starting him. Melvin Gordon is a startable running back for sure. I don't think it should be any question at this point. He's done pretty well. On the Panthers side, Christian McCaffrey is still out, and DJ Moore
Bobby,
is also
we have
out.
The Titans
Start
at
Curtis
the
Samuel.
Jaguars.
Yeah, this is why you have Derrick Henry now. Beginning your playoff run, Derrick Henry is going to dominate this game in a smash spot. A.J. Brown and Corey Davis are very good plays as well. I love Ryan Tannehill as a top 10 this week. Titans offense comes to a rebound here and crushes Jacksonville. You're starting J-Rob in Jacksonville. And Chark, and I could consider as well Colin Johnson if you're desperate at wide receiver. He's been seeing some good targets and volume with Glennon at quarterback.
Okay, Bud, we have the Colts at the Raiders.
Speaking of targets, we're going to talk about target share just real fast. T.Y. Hilton is creeping close to 25% target share right now from Phil Rivers. That's very promising, and he scored like somewhere around 28 PPR points in the last 2 weeks. So that's something to keep an eye on that side. You could start Taylor. Josh on the other side, Josh Jacobs is back, and he's in. So start him. I mean, you have to at this point. There's no point in benching him. Darren Waller, big day.
Okay,
Derek
Bobby,
Carr,
we
big
have
day.
the Jets at the Seahawks.
Yeah, I think we all agree here. John even mentioned earlier 41 and rain in Seattle. Darnold's due for, he says, at least 2 turnovers. I would take the over on that, no doubt. Fire up the Seahawks defense. Keep an eye on Jamison Crowder, though. He's questionable. Denzel Mims is out, so I kind of like Rashad Perryman if you're desperate for like a high upside, high risk wide receiver 3 play. But other than that, avoid everyone else. Seattle, smash spot for us, smash spot for Carson, and smash spot for Lockett and Metcalf. Jets have been better against the run, but still start
Packers
Carson.
at the Lions.
So it's going to be a big day for the Packers, in my opinion. The over-under is 55.5. Devontae Adams is poised to have a big game. He's averaging 34 PPR points a game, which is absurd. Aaron Jones maybe has a bigger day, maybe a break-off run. Lions side, Kenny Golladay is still out, of course, so you have Marvin Jones there, and Swift is active. So if you need to start him, that's potentially
We got
an
the
option
Saints.
for you.
We got the Eagles. Bobby, what you got?
Taysom Hill is the QB3 over the last 3 weeks since he started. I think he's a safe QB1 here with his rushing floor. Obviously, you have to roll out Kamara. Michael Thomas is finally starting to see his old production, so you get him in as well. As for the Eagles, Jalen Hurts is the starter, and he's going to be the starter the rest of the year. Report came out, but I think he can stash him for the playoffs, but I wouldn't start him here. It's kind of a wait and see against a very, very good defense. Miles Sanders, it's hard to start him as well. I don't really like anybody in Philly except
we have
Goddard.
the Falcons at the Chargers, bud.
Yeah, so Julio's out. There's no expectation that really he can finish the season. They haven't said, so that's something to monitor. But you're not really starting Gurley. I think the only startable options here would be Hurst at tight end and Ridley for the Falcons. Matt Ryan's this point too. Chargers, you're starting Herbert, Keenan Allen for sure, and Eckler if you have them. Those are your must starts.
All right, Bobby, we have the football team at the 49ers.
With no Antonio Gibson, look for Alex Smith look for J.D. McKissick and Logan Thomas to get a lot of those short targets from Alex Smith. He's a check down guy, so I like those guys a lot in PPR leagues. I think McLaurin, like we mentioned earlier, is looking for a nice little bounce back here. I'm avoiding Peyton Barber. As for the 49ers, you still got to go with Mostert, but keep an eye. He's been really splitting snaps. Right now, maybe they'll give him a higher snap share as he gets healthier. I love
All right,
Ayuk
bud,
and Deebo
we have
Samuel.
Sunday Night Football. Steelers at the Bills.
These primetime slates are friggin' awesome, this game and the next. And I'll tell you right now, Steelers are going to only really throw the ball. I don't see a big running game here. They have really struggled with the run as of late, so they're probably going to throw the ball. All your receivers are going to be good. Juju on the lower end of things. Bills-wise, Josh Allen's looking to light up. It depends if he can play good against a tough defense.
All right, Bobby, we have Monday Night Football. Ravens at the Browns.
Yeah, like Bud said, it's going to be a good game. I like Lamar Jackson in the passing offense with the Ravens. I think getting Mark Andrews back is going to help, so you start those two. I really wish they would just give J.K. Dobbins the full workload. He deserves it. Let him free. But I think you could still start him as an upside play. Maybe they will. And Hollywood Brown is just a boom or bust play for Cleveland. Start Chubb, start Hunt, and Landry you start as well. Hold Mayfield for a playoff stash, but not this week in a good game.
And that is time. All right, survived another round of rapid fire breakdowns. Now, before we move on to the questions, just really quick, Bud, was there any game that you want to take just a little bit closer look? I know you hardly got into your Bills in that Steelers-Bills matchup.
Yeah, I was going to go there. That's kind of why I was, rambling a little bit. So specifically, I just want to get back to the Steelers and they're definitely going to be playing tough football. They're pretty upset that they lost their win streak. That was one thing that they were, for sure going for, and losing to Washington was, pretty much a letdown for a lot of people. But the thing I saw recently is that, they haven't been able to run the ball too well. And that's part into James Conner being out. And you don't know how active he's going to be and how limited they're going to keep him. But they're ranked like pretty much, every category in terms of rushing. They're about 26 in the league right now. The Bills front is pretty decent. So if they can't get going on that front, expect them to throw the ball. So Claypool and Deontay Johnson are going to be the main guys there. Eric Ebron got a lot of work, but he did get criticized by the coach because he's not catching the ball. So you kind of are concerned on that front, but also Juju is hard to play because the other guys are just getting hooked up more. And then James Washington, of course, is not a starter unless you're in a super deep league, like a 16-teamer or something. But I wouldn't even consider anybody else on that front. But they're probably going to throw the ball a lot more. Now on the Bills side, I don't think it's going to be a heavy run game as we've seen lately. I think last week was just a warm up for Josh Allen. He almost threw for 400 yards, 4 touchdowns. He barely ran. The only time he ran was when he needed, the pocket broke down and collapsed and he had to get out of there, or he was trying to force his way for a first down. But, Singletary and Moss are not going to get it done against a tough run defense. Now, there are so many holes in the Steelers secondary right now and their linebacking core that and Bud Dupree not being there makes things a lot easier. So, I would expect Josh Allen, like him and Diggs and Beasley have just developed this chemistry, and it's just crazy. I called Beasley coming up, and he's still there. And Diggs is able to make these really crazy catches and toe tap. I think we're going to see a really big passing day for Josh Allen, and I mean this is just further like silencing the critics of the passing attack by Josh Allen because he's really getting it done on that front. So I expect a heavy passing day from him and less rushing on the Bills front tonight.
All right. So before we go ahead, I do want to try to get some of your questions that are coming in. And Bobby, we're going to start with you. Greg asks Russell Gage or Kiki Kuti.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Kiki Kuti there.
All right. Nice and quick. All right, Bud. Michael asks Goddard or Jonnu, PPR.
Yeah, so I own both of these players. Jonnu has been kind of a letdown. I know he was hurt, and Fursker was getting some reps. I still expect Fursker to be involved and be there. So I think he's ranked a little bit lower. Goddard is ranked like 10th overall tight end this week, and it's only really that low because they're playing the Saints. I kind of feel like you have to start them a little bit more though because it's going to be Hurts, and they know that Goddard's reliable, so it might be a better day for him. So I'm going with Goddard in this case.
All right, Bobby. James asks Jonnu Smith or Gesicki.
Yeah, I'm going to take Jonnu Smith here. He's healthy, and I'm all in on that Titans attack. Gesicki's just been too up and down for me. I love the Titans this week, so I'll take Jonnu there.
All right, Bud. Michael asks Kareem Hunt or Marvin Jones, PPR.
I'm gonna go Marvin Jones here. Actually, Kareem Hunt's been pretty disappointing in the last few weeks, and Nick Chubb is getting the ball more. I mean, Marvin Jones only really legitimate startable fantasy options over there receiving are Hawkinson and Marvin Jones, with Kenny Galladay being out. So I like Jones here.
All right, Bobby. Bennett asks, who would you start in standard? Gio, Devontae Parker, Washington, or Wilson? Jeff Wilson.
Yeah, I'm going to take DeAndre Washington there in the standard. And another real quick thing about Marvin Jones, kind of what Bud was saying as well. Since Galladay's been out in each game, Jones has averaged almost 9 targets. So I think as long as Galladay's out, Jones is definitely a startable option there. But pertaining to this specific question, yeah, I'm going to go with Washington out of those guys.
All right, Bud. We have Mike asking Davis or Swift today. Who would you play?
I think in this case, I'm going to say Mike Davis. He is ranked a little bit higher, and he's still on fresh legs. Swift is just coming back. We don't know. I mean, he could take one hit and then he has a headache again. You know what I mean? I would just be a little leery about that. I do think he is also startable, but I think Mike Davis has a higher potential to really break out. He's the only guy over there. Follow the volume.
All right, Bobby. Tyler's got a couple of questions. The first one is Juju or Chark?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Juju here. I think, again, I think the Steelers are just going to throw the ball a lot here, and there's enough volume going around there. It's a close call, though. I'll give Juju.
All right, Bud. His second question is Montgomery or Chubb?
And that's actually like a really close one. I do think Chubb is just a little bit higher. He's looked great coming off of the injury. It's not to say at Montgomery isn't a good option either. I do think it's going to be really close in terms of scoring. I think Chubb is just going to eke it out just a little bit more.
All right, Bobby. We have Steve who asks Jacobs or Swift?
Oh, that's also a pretty good one because both guys are similar with coming off injury. But, like Bud said, there is a risk with Swift there, with that concussion, and that's very tricky. I'm going to go with Jacobs here.
All right. So we got more questions coming in. Actually, one just from Niner Nation. So, Bud, Jefferson, Claypool, Cooper, Samuel. Pick 2.
Jefferson, Cooper. What were the other ones?
Claypool and Samuel.
Jefferson and Claypool for me.
All right.
Oh wait, I'm gonna change Claypool. I'm gonna go Samuel. I like Samuel a little bit more.
All right,
So
going with Debo Samuel this week. All right, so Bobby, this next question comes in from Kabir. Beasley, Cootie, or Landry in the flex?
I think it's hard to sit Cole Beasley at this point. I really like Kiki Cutie as well, but I mean Beasley's just been so good, and it's hard to sit him. So Cole Beasley.
All right, going with Beasley. All right, this next question comes from Nick. Bud, the question is Mayfield or Murray?
man, also really tough because Baker had a really good week last week. We know he's been kind of down, and we're kind of imparting that to the weather. He doesn't play very well in the rain, and they had a month straight of those games, so it was a lot of running. Kyler is pretty decent on the run and pass. I'm gonna take Kyler. I think it's just a safer quarterback play, just because we talk about a lot of up and down, and that's been kind of Mayfield. So it's possible that he has a lesser passing day, and Chubb has a bigger running day.
Yeah, Kyler Murray's just way too talented, I feel. Even though, Mayfield's coming off that crazy game, it's hard to expect for him to repeat that on a consistent basis. So, Bobby, Tyler has another question. Last one out of the flex, Montgomery or Chark?
Yeah, David Montgomery there.
All right. So, Bud, we have a question from Denise. PPR, wide receiver and flex, Beasley, Cutie, Mike Williams, Hunt, Mostert.
Wow, what are the
So
options?
I guess, all right, we got picking two. One wide receiver, one flex. That's Cole Beasley, Cutie, Mike Williams, Hunt, or Mostert.
One more time, last time, and I'll have the answer for you.
All right, Beasley, Kiki Cutie,
Okay,
Mike Williams, Hunt, and Mostert.
Beasley, Kuti, and Mostert in the flex.
All right, we're picking one wide receiver and one flex.
Okay, in that case, Kuti.
Kuti and who?
Mostert in the flex.
All right. So there's the answer. All right. We have Hunter who asks full PPR, Allen Robinson or A.J. Brown, or start both and sit Nick Chubb, who's my flex right now. Bobby, that's for you.
Well, those are some good options. They're all great options. Out of those three, though, I'm gonna sit Allen Robinson, and I'm gonna start Chubb in the flex, and I'm gonna start A.J. Brown.
All right. Bobby, or actually Bud, we have Tyler asking Allen or Herbert.
Allen.
All right. Bobby, Elgali asks Swift or Taylor at the flex. Standard.
Give me Jonathan Taylor.
All right, man. Just breezing through these. All right. So this next one comes from Michael, who asks half PPR, Brown or Crowder?
Brown who? A.J. Brown?
Antonio Brown.
Oh, something to monitor here. Do we even know if Crowder's playing? I mean, they haven't really officially said anything. I think he's still questionable.
Yeah, the game's at 4:00, so he's still questionable. Probably it's going to be a game time call.
He did not practice Friday, so keep that in mind.
Yeah, that's typically not a good sign either. So I kind of think that Antonio Brown is going to have a comeuppance here. So it might be a good time to start him. And I mean, if we don't know if Crowder's playing, go for it.
All right. And Niner Nation, to answer your question, we did answer, just to repeat the question for everyone else listening, it was Jefferson, Claypool, Cooper, Samuel, pick two. The answer that Bud gave was Jefferson and Samuel. So just making sure that you got that. All right, moving on to the next one, Bobby. The question is pick two of Swift, Connor, and CEH half PPR.
Okay, just writing those down. So Bud mentioned that the Steelers are still, and I think the Steelers are still going to throw the ball, but I think that Tomlin is going to want to get back to Steeler football, running the ball, and the Bills have been struggling against the run, and I think they realized how much they miss James Conner and that Big Ben can't be throwing the ball 50 plus times a game to win. I think it's going to be actually a really nice game for James Conner here. So I'm going to start Conner, and between Swift and CEH, I just still have a hard time trusting CEH with Bell still getting carries, and they throw the ball so much in Kansas City. I know Swift has the concussion risk, and they're close, but I'm going to take the upside of Swift, and I'm going to take James Conner.
All right, Bud. Andrew asks, pick one. You have Bernard, Washington, or Wilson, full PPR.
Just one.
Yep, pick one.
It's easy for me. Bernard. Dallas's run defense sucks. Give me Bernard.
All right, Bobby. Dan asks Bridgewater or Mayfield.
Yikes. I'm not crazy about either this week. But I will take Teddy B because I think he has a better matchup.
All right, so this next question comes from Yanni for Bud. McLaurin, Mike Davis, or Swift for the flex?
McLaurin, Mike Davis. I'm going to go with Terry here. He didn't have a good game last week. He's going to bounce back. Even his team said so. So, let me get Terry because I think he has the potential for a higher ceiling in this, and he could get a couple touchdowns or even just a ton of yards.
Yeah, I love Terry McLaurin. He has been consistently great all season with that off game last week. Yeah, definitely look for him to bounce back. All right, Bobby, this next question comes from Francois, who asks, Jamal Williams, Michael Pittman, and T. Higgins, one of them for a standard scoring league.
I'm going to take T. Higgins. Normally, I think out of the three, I'd take Pittman, but like Bud mentioned about Hilton getting a bigger target share, and Higgins does have a good matchup. He was questionable coming in, but he practiced on Friday, and so he's going to play. It's a nice matchup against Dallas, so I'll take Higgins there.
All right, Bud, we have Dustin, who asks Melvin Gordon or DeAndre Swift, full PPR.
I think this is close, but Melvin Gordon has been a pretty reliable RB2 at least in the last few weeks. So I would expect that he's going to get the workload here. And I do think that even though Swift is in, I think he is going to be on a limited basis. So I think the safer play for sure would be Melvin Gordon.
All right, so this next question comes from Jason, who asks Noah Fant or Tanyan. Looks like Fant's matchup, but Tanyan been balling PPR.
Yeah, it's Tanya.
All right.
Agree with that 100%.
All right, we got another question from Niner Nation for Bud. Ebron or Hawkinson?
Really close, but I do think that Hawkinson gets an edge here, just basically because he's been involved every game. Ebron is already been told if you can't catch the ball, we're not going to throw it to you. So, expect that to, play into the game a little bit. Sometimes it's smoke and mirrors, but, Mike Tomlin usually means what he says. So, but Hawkinson has definitely been a safer play all season at tight end.
All right, Bobby. We have Noel, who asks Fant or Gesicki.
Oh man, you know what? I'm gonna go Gesicki. It's the playoffs. I think Gesicki has higher upside than Fant, and I think the Dolphins are might have to throw the ball in this game. They might fall behind in the playoffs. I'm gonna take the upside, so I'll take Gesicki.
All right, Bud Hunter asks Hunter Henry or Mike Gesicki.
We pretty much said it before. Mike Gesicki is kind of up and down. And Hunter Henry's been, pretty reliable all season. He's been in my small league year. He's been sitting in my tight end spot all season. There's been no question. I know he had a bad bad last couple of weeks, but I mean they're going against Atlanta, so I expect the ball to be thrown a lot. I expect Justin Herbert to really get going today and hopefully have a good outing. Especially against a weak defense. So that's I'm gonna go Hunter Henry for sure.
All right, Bobby. Joey is asking, should I start DeAndre Washington? Other choices are Edmonds or Moss.
Oh yeah, DeAndre Washington.
All right, you hear that? Washington. I know Bobby's really high on Washington this week, and yeah, he does have that potential. He has that opening, and it is a revenge game, so keep an eye out for that. All right, Bud, this question comes from Chris, who asks, pick 2, Connor, Cooper, Hilton, full PPR.
Man, Connor and Cooper for me.
All right, Connor and Cooper. All right, Bobby, this next question comes from John, who asks, Duke Johnson or Gurley, PPR.
Both are pretty ugly, but I'm going to go with Duke Johnson. He's going to see higher volume and a higher snap percentage.
Okay, Bud, this next question comes from Jimmy Pops. Marvin Jones or Hollywood Brown?
Oh man, this is the close one. Just mainly based on Brown being back. He's super boomer bust, and when he's bust, he's bust. So, keep that in mind. Dang. I'll go with Brown just for the sake of getting the points and the fact that he's finally gotten going. So hope that Lamar Jackson actually throws the ball today and he throws it well.
Yeah, like Bobby said earlier, these are the playoffs, which means we are going for upside plays. You are going to be facing tough competition wherever you are. In most leagues, you're in the playoffs right now, so you got to play to win the game. All right, Bobby, this next question comes from Joseph. We have Taysom Hill or Kyler Murray.
Yeah, it's still Kyler for me.
All right, and the second part of that question, I'm going to hand this off to you, Bud. Hopkins or Godwin, PPR.
I'm gonna go with Hopkins here.
All right,
I just think he's a vet and he can ball. He's playing. Go for it.
Yeah, Hopkins' upside is just way too high to be able to sit him in the playoffs. All right, so Bobby, this next question comes from T-Bone. Cutie or Evans, yardage heavy league.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Kiki Cutie. Again, he's gonna see a higher target share. I like him over Mike Evans in all statistical categories today, including yards.
All right. And Bud, Niner Nation, chimes in asking, just curious, what's y'all's prediction for Debo against Washington?
That's going to depend on what happens with Washington's defensive line specifically. If Chase Young just continues to perform and they really put pressure on Mullins, don't expect that offense to get going. I do like Debo a lot. It's great to see him back, but it's going to be a tough matchup. Washington's defense is pretty decent, and also a sneaky defensive start this week, but it's going to depend a lot on that if Mullins could actually get going and survive the pass rush.
All right, Bobby. Tyler asks Tannehill or Jackson, PPR.
I'm not sure if PPR matters in determining quarterbacks unless they catch passes. No, but yeah, I'm going to take Lamar Jackson.
All right. Lamar Jackson. All right, so this next question for Bud. Paul asks, pick 2. Are you ready?
Yeah, go for
it. All right, we have Zeke, Gallman, Swift, Taylor, Dobbins. Again, that is Zeke, Gallman, Swift, Taylor, or Dobbins.
Okay, I do have them all. I typed. I wrote it down. And 2. Is this a PPR or standard?
I'm going to assume PPR since Paul did not bother to tell me.
We will always basically assume that, but sometimes it's good to know. Yeah, man. All these guys are kind of like close in the rankings. I do think Zeke edges that out just a little bit, just because he does get a lot of work. Even though that they're not like terribly good, and the line is kind of shaky over there for Dallas. I do like Zeke, so that will be one of them for me. I've already expressed my concerns about Swift getting a full workload today. Taylor is the same thing. I mean, it's a hot hand situation over there. Dobbins is coming up. I do think it's riskier. I'm going to go Zeke and Gallman here, just because we know that Gallman's going to get a lot of work and a lot of carries, and Daniel Jones being there kind of makes things just a little more relaxed on offense. They try to get him back ASAP, and it's good that they did. But I do rank Gallman and Dobbins basically like down the middle. So if you want to try to pick somebody else on that front, Dobbins would be the switch for me. But Zeke for sure and Gallman.
All right, so Zeke and Gallman. And Tyler, thank you for asking. You can follow our live streams. This is our first time doing it live on this Facebook page, the Fantasy Football Discussion. We are going to continue to do it on here. You can also find us live on Twitch. You can find us at twitch.tv/lastminutefantasyscramble. So I know it's a long name, but we are going to be posting it. We go live every Sunday and also Tuesday, usually, sometimes Wednesday, depending on how the NFL season works out. But we try to get in right before waivers with all the most updated information to give you all that waiver information. And also, if you're interested in listening to us, we are on every podcast platform you could think of. Just search Last Minute Fantasy Scramble, Spotify, Google, Apple Podcasts, whatever you could think of, we are on there. So this next question comes from Tim, and Bobby, I'm going to let you take this one. Which of these running backs would you start Jacobs over? Drake, McKissick, Dobbins, or Mostert? Full PPR.
All of them. Look, Jacobs, it's the playoffs. You have your stud. He's in, and you start him over those options. And real quick, K-Mac, going along with what you're saying about, we're our show here. And guys, we put a lot of work into this. K-Mac puts a lot of work into setting this up and the research as well. And then Bud, and John, we're football fans, and we try to get as much information as we can. We try to look at matchups. We dive in and look at snap shares and all those things and do some research behind us. So we put a lot in to try to make the best decisions for you guys. So yeah, definitely tune in and like us and subscribe, guys. We'd appreciate it. But yeah, out of those running backs, definitely starting Jacobs over all of them.
All right, Bud, this next question, let's see right here. Lost my place a little bit. All right, we have from Niner Nation again, Amari Cooper predictions facing banged up Cincinnati D.
So I mean, Andy Dalton's become a little more relaxed in this offense. It's another thing. It's completely dependent on a weak offensive line. I mean, obviously the quarterback isn't going to get the ball to his receivers if they're getting blitzed all the time. But I don't think that Cincinnati's defense is going to do a lot of press of that, and I think it's going to be a lot of man-to-man coverage instead of zone coverage, because they have to match up against these guys and really cover them pretty tight. We saw Cooper start to get going a little bit last week. It wasn't anything incredible, but he is definitely the best out of the three there right now. Lamb is still coming into his own. He does have the possibility, but I do think Cooper could have a really good day. I would consider him more of a flex wide receiver right now, though.
All right, Bobby. Adam asks, Dobbins or Jamal Williams?
Yeah, I'll take Dobbins.
All right, so Dobbins. Okay, Bud, we got another Amari Cooper question coming from Travis. Start one. Amari Cooper, T.Y. Hilton, Tim Patrick, Chase Claypool.
Man, that's it's pretty tough. I pretty much put Hilton and Patrick into their own tier. Be ahead of that, it's a toss up for Claypool and Cooper, but I'm actually going to go Claypool here. We talked about it earlier. I do think Pittsburgh's passing attack is going to be here later tonight, and the kid's doing great things. I really liked Claypool. coming out of the draft. I was kind of hoping my team would pick him up, and they were looking at him, and they didn't get him. And then he went to the Steelers, and now look like he's a specimen. So I kind of like him a little bit more.
All right. And out of the rest of those, Cooper, T.Y. Hilton, or Tim Patrick, would you start any of them over DeAndre Swift in the flex? And if so, who would it be?
Oh, we're going. Is my question now?
I'll let Bud finish this one off.
I'm sorry, the options again?
So you still have Cooper, T.Y. Hilton, and Tim Patrick. Would you start any of those over Swift?
Cooper is the next top there, and just a little bit ranked higher over Swift. It's really close, but I would say Cooper in this case.
All right, Bobby, this next question comes in from Zach. Mike Davis, Mostert, or Miles Sanders?
I'll take Mike Davis there, Zach, especially if it's a PPR league.
All right. Bud, this next question is for you, and it comes from Michael, who asks, PPR, flex Nyheim Hines or Tyler Boyd?
Man, Boyd really hasn't done a whole lot. I mean, part of that's due to him getting tossed last week in that game for fisticuffs. Hines PPR kind of heightens his value a little bit, and he does get involved pretty much every weekish. I'd say Boyd has the potential to get heavily targeted in this game, especially against weak Cowboys defense. So, man, it's really tough, but I think I'm going to go Boyd here just because he has the potential to really blow the game up.
All right, so this next question for you, Bobby. Pick one running back and one flex in PPR. You ready?
All right, I got the pen and paper. Let's do it.
We got Jamison Crowder versus Seattle, Devontae Parker versus Kansas City, CEH versus Miami, or Duke Johnson versus Chicago.
And you need one?
One running back, one flex.
Okay. Yeah, so for the running back, I'm going to take CEH, and I'm going to throw Devontae Parker in the flex. Bud, we talked about with Crowder. Did not practice Friday. That's never a good sign, and he's at the 4 o'clock games, and out of those other options, everybody else plays at 1, so you wouldn't have a good pivot there. So I'll take CEH and Parker in the flex.
All right, Bud, this is a standard league. Brendan asks, start Ty Johnson, J.K. Dobbins, J.D. McKissick, or James Conner?
Just one?
Just start one. Ty Johnson, J.K. Dobbins, J.D. McKissick, or James Conner?
This is really tough. I'm not starting Ty Johnson. I don't care what Gore's situation is or anything over there. That's just a messy thing. Man, I'm going to go J.K. Dobbins. It's really close. If it was PPR, I'd be taking McKissick for sure. But the fact that it's not, I mean, he's gonna get a lot of work. He's gonna be the workhorse there. He's gonna get a lot of check down passes, but Peyton Barber is also going to be involved there. And I mean, in standard, that's going to kind of take away from the value a little bit. But Dobbins is really starting to show up and getting a majority of the carries, but so are the other guys. But they've put a lot of faith into him, and I think in standard, he's probably going to do a little bit better.
All right, Bobby. Johnny asks, Thielen Jefferson or Thielen McLaurin? I'm guessing Thielen Jefferson or McLaurin. Unless we got a Thielen Jefferson or Thielen McLaurin.
Yeah, if you only need one of those, I don't see how you can sit Justin Jefferson. Bottom line. You start Justin Jefferson out of those guys.
All right. So, Bud, this next question is for you. Gio or Clyde?
Gio here. Clyde, CH has just really, I mean, I'm a frustrated CEH owner, as you can tell. He kind of fleeced me last week with the goose egg. I got caught by the activation and all that other stuff. and he didn't even play. But even when he has been playing the last few games, Bell is just involved enough to kind of take away from his volume. So he's a fave for me, and Gio being there, getting a majority of the work against a weak Cowboys run defense, that's a surefire start for me.
All right, Bobby. We have Rob who asks, wait, do you have your pen and paper ready? And bless you, whoever
Yes, sir.
that
Let's
was.
do it.
All right. Rob played Cup already. Need 2 running backs, 1 wide receiver, and 1 flex. So
All
we
right.
are setting Rob's lineup. Are you ready?
All right.
Robinson, Swift, Hunt, Dobbins, Washington, Robinson, Beasley, QT, or Shepard?
Yeah. Okay. I got the first 3. Robinson, Swift, Hunt. Does it say Allen or James?
There's 2 Robinsons on
there's
here,
2
so let's
Robinsons.
just assume both.
Both. Okay. So J-Rob, A-Rob, Swift, Hunt, and read the others, please, after that.
Dobbins, Washington, Beasley, QT, Shepard.
All right. Dobbins, Washington, Beasley, QT, and Shepard.
2 running
2
backs, 1
Yep.
wide receiver, and 1 flex.
So
Let's
for
play,
my running
start,
backs here,
set Rob's lineup.
yeah. So for my running backs here, I'm gonna go with J-Rob, number 1, and I am gonna go with Swift slightly over Washington. I still, even though he may be limited, I love his upside again, and it's hard to start Washington over Swift in a playoff game. So J-Rob and Swift at running backs. For my wide receiver, I'm gonna start Allen Robinson, and then for my flex, I'm gonna start DeAndre Washington.
All right. So, Bud, question for you comes from Miles. PPR, Kenyon Drake or Amari Cooper?
I'm thinking. I'm gonna make it quick. Drake.
All right, going Kenyon Drake. Bobby, Nick asks, PPR flex, pick 1. Josh Jacobs, Juju Smith-Schuster, or Raheem Mostert?
Josh Jacobs.
All right, nice and easy. Okay, Bud, this next question is for you. Are you ready?
Oh man, is this a long one?
No. Lamb,
Okay.
Ayuk, or Shark?
Okay, just one.
Just one.
I'm gonna go Ayuk.
All right. Bobby, we have a question from Zach who asks non-PPR, Big Ben or Herbert?
Justin Herbert is going to rebound, like Bud said. I'm totally with him. I like Herbert a lot this week.
All right, going Justin Herbert. All right, Bud, this next question comes from Gerardo who asks standard, Mike Davis or Jonathan Taylor?
Yeah, I'm gonna. Man, this is also tough. If it was PPR, it'd be crystal cut. Um, I'll still go Mike Davis here, just because he's gonna be super involved in the running game and he's gonna get work. He is gonna get catches too, but it just kind of sucks that it's not PPR. But Taylor, I don't know. Like I don't even own him and I don't trust him. I know he had the big game a couple weeks ago, but I don't know that any given week it could be the other guy. So I'm gonna stay away.
Bobby, Andrew asks Chark or Jacobs at flex if he's healthy. I obviously want to start him, but I'm skeptical. I have Taylor and Robinson as my other starting running backs.
Oh, I like those other 2 starting running backs, but I mean, look, you just have to go with it. You got to trust the reports. They said he's going to play. I haven't read anything about a limited workload, and you most likely drafted him in your first or second round. I mean, in my opinion, you really don't have a choice. I think you have to start Jacobs. I would try to add Booker as a potential pivot option in case something like crazy happens. But you have to start Jacobs there, in my opinion.
I'll chime in. I asked you guys the question the other night. I have the same guy. I have the same guys. I have Jacobs or Chark for the flex, but I also do have Booker on my bench. Yeah, I mean, just in case he does get hurt or re-aggravated after this game, or if they say something before kickoff, having Jacobs and is probably going to be the safer option because Chark, he has the potential, but he also could have a weird quarterback situation. They think that Gardner Minshew might come back halfway through that game if it doesn't turn out the way that they like. So I mean, keep that in mind. You can have two different guys passing to him. So Jacobs is just they need to win to really get involved in the playoffs. So the Raiders are going to try to bounce back, and they need one of their best players to do it.
Yeah, and really, real quick, hopping off that too, but like again, when it comes down to questions like this, and that's a perfect example. Like, would you, I kind of go by this, especially in the playoffs. How would you feel? Would you rather feel, let's say, you benched your stud and he goes off on your bench, than starting your stud and maybe living with the results? I mean, I'd feel a lot worse if I were to bench my stud and he ends up going off. You know what I mean? So again, I'm not crazy about Jacobs this week, like based on the matchup, and he's probably not 100%, but you just I think you have to roll him out there when it comes to that specific situation. So I'm with you there, bud.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Kate. I was just gonna say real fast, like the start your stud thing. To an extent, that is almost a rule that you want to follow. In this case, it's a really good example. Sometimes there are studs that don't become studs, that people are still like start your studs on some of these guys, and usually those are guys that we kind of want to play matchups with, and you want to try to have your core like fantasy lineup of your regular startable guys, but you do want to make sure that you're only looking for like a couple of roster spots where you're like, okay, do I start this guy or this guy, not your whole lineup. So keep that in mind. Try to have your core group, and don't get cute with playing this weird like matchup game, but also play strong, play to your strengths, and try to only change one or two spots. Your flex option should be one of those spots, and then maybe like a wide receiver option.
All right, so we do have time for a few more questions. Going to try to rattle off all these that have been coming in through the Facebook live stream. We have Bobby. Let's answer this one. Mike Davis or Nick Chubb?
Nick Chubb.
All right, nice and easy. And Bud, the second one coming in, Terry or Godwin?
Yeah, give me Terry.
All right. Just a couple more questions. We have from Michael, who asked Taysom Hill or Lamar?
Lamar.
And Jacobs or Miles Sanders? Bud, you can take
Jacobs.
that one.
Jacobs. We just both jump in.
So I'm going to say Jacobs for both of you. All right. And, man, who to give this question to? Who wants it?
I'll take it. Whatever.
Josh Jacobs or Jonathan Taylor?
That's easy for me. Jacobs.
All right. So Josh Jacobs. All right. Now to close off the show, for those of you listening to the first time, this is what we call our breakout player of the weekend. We go over all the games that we have, and each of us picks one player that we choose to go that much higher than ESPN PPR projections. And last Tuesday we had, or Wednesday I should say, we went for the Thursday night game, and Bobby's pick of Cam Akers was far and ahead the winner. So Bobby, why don't you start us off? Who is your choice for breakout player of the weekend?
This is actually a tough one because I have like 2 or 3 guys in mind, and I'm like really kind of figuring out which one to go with. But I mentioned earlier last night I was going to go with DeAndre Washington, so I'm not going to flake around. I'm going to stick to my word. I'll take DeAndre Washington. Let me just pull up his projection real quick on ESPN and PPR leagues. He's projected for 11.9. So I'll take Washington.
All right, and we had John, another one of the co-hosts that we have rotating in and out. He already came in with his choice of Kiki QT. I think that's a good one. He's going to go off today, especially with Cooks out. Now, Bud, who is your choice for breakout player of the weekend?
Yeah, I get dumb and I pick like these like wide receiver 5s and stuff to like break out and beat their projection, but not today. We talked a lot about him today. I'm going to go Scary Terry, Terry McLaurin. He is projected for 16, but one of the things that helped me decide this, and it cracks me up, is the Washington football team tweeted today, this morning, The tweet is now deleted. It's not there anymore. But it said, Terry McLaurin poised for a bounce back game, a must start in fantasy. I don't think I ever seen like a fan or like an actual team tweet fantasy options for their team. So just based on that and based on the hype and based on their Twitter getting brigaded, if Terry McLaurin doesn't have a good game, I think it's going to be pretty fun and exciting and something to root for. Plus, I have Terry on my team, so I'm rooting for him.
All right. And to close it out, I'm just going to go. I'm expecting him to have a bounce back week this week. The Pittsburgh Steelers are going to have to try to find interesting ways to score against that Buffalo defense. But I'm going to say with James Conner, he's projected 12.4 points. I think he's due for a big game. They have not been running the ball as much lately, but they may need to switch things around against the Buffalo Bills. Now, before we close out, I do just want to try to answer these last few questions that came in. So, Bud, we're going to start with you. T. Higgins or Duke Johnson, 1 point PPR.
T. Higgins for me. Duke Johnson is going to have a tough time, and I think that they're going to throw the ball a lot more.
All right. And last but not least, we have Isaiah, who asked Curtis Samuel or Devontae Parker.
Ooh, that's actually that's a tough one. I'm gonna take Curtis Samuel. I think he has a little higher upside here. I'll go Samuel. Now, if Fitz was starting, obviously Parker, but no, I'll take Samuel.
Going with Samuel. Okay, so that pretty much closes us out for today. I want to thank you all for listening and tuning in this time. This was our first time going live in this group, and just thrilled with the turnout. I appreciate all your questions. Appreciate everybody tuning in. We are live every Tuesday usually and Sunday, so be on the lookout. We are there to answer all of your last-minute fantasy questions, and we do post our podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and anywhere where you could find podcasts. Really appreciate you tuning in, liking, sharing, subscribing, all of that nonsense. All of it. We do work hard to try to get your answers and help you with those last-minute fantasy questions. And you know what? We have one more question coming in. We're going to do our best to answer this. Bud, Carlos asked Dobbins, Debo, or Gio.
Ooh, man, that's a tough one. I'm gonna go Gio here. It's close between him and Dobbins, but Gio for me.
All right, and I lied. One more coming in again. All right, Bobby, who do I start? Josh Allen or Aaron Rodgers?
All right, we can't hear Bobby. I'll jump in real quick. I'm gonna go Rodgers. Slight edge. I do think Josh Allen is coming into his own, but Rodgers has a really juicy matchup, and it's a divisional game, and he's trying to lock up a good seed in the playoffs. So Rodgers for me.
All right, so now that wraps it off. We are done. Not answering any more questions for those of you who are trying to sneak in again. I wish you the best of luck. This is playoff round 1 for most of you, so we hope we could help you any way we can. Tune in. We will be live next Tuesday to answer your waiver questions and get you ready for the week ahead, get you prepped for those semifinal rounds. So, for Bobby Digital Janice and Bud Stanio, I'm Kevin K. Mac McCartney. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time.